So talking about things for Pesach, and start by going through items that they pop it in the Seder, and we'll see how it goes. So starts off with wine. So the first issue would be, is your wine mevushal or not mevushal? If you're having any guests that are not shomer Shabbos, or even if you have non-Jewish guests, which is a different child to do on Yom Tov, you definitely only want to have mevushal wine. It's such a hassle to have otherwise that it's more heartache and it's socially uncomfortable. Along with that, you have to check each bottle to make sure that it's kosher Pesach. Vast majority of wines, like 99+%, are kosher Pesach. Somebody always manages to find the one that isn't. You don't really want to use wine that's not kosher Pesach for delicate cases, right? The other thing is the 2015 Israeli wines are from Shemitah year. So they don't have the normal, those come with an OU and OK, won't have it on there. It'll have a Rabbanut, and it'll say Heter Mechira, and in Chabad we don't use those. So while there's a great sale price on those in stores, you want to avoid 2015 Shemitah wine.
It's gonna have some sort of marker on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's only in Hebrew, so whatever. You start wondering how come the 2014 and then has hashgachas that you recognize, and this one, who's that? What's that? It's because of Heter Mechira. So when they talk about on these lists that there's no water or no sugar added to the wine, these are generalities. Nobody has the shmora wine like the Rabbi Rashad had. There are certain families that I'm aware of that really have no problem getting matzah wet in the early days of Pesach. Almanas, that there's no water, therefore no return to chametz, this and that. I'll be polite and not comment further on what I think about that, but no, we don't have that. If you didn't make it yourself and know that it didn't happen, because even getting wine from one tank to another, and you have to move it just as a matter of production, that push at the end is always with water. And on some of these lists, I wrote to a couple of the authors and said, why are you saying there's no water added when clearly you add water? Well, I would believe that water added before fermentation doesn't count. No? Okay, that's nice.
In this context, is there a shear, or just any amount of water is already an issue?
In terms of what? Being added, whether it'll to make something chametzik? If it gets get your matzah wet with wine?
Yeah, regarding the wine in this case.
So, it's not going to be 1 gallon that gets in. We're talking much more than that. Will it be bottled in one sense? Yeah, but it's not shmora wine. It's that we just don't have it. We don't have shmora wine. We don't have shmora milk. We don't have any of that stuff anymore, unless you go to the farm or do it yourself.
In other words, you're saying that you cannot rely that the wine that you're using doesn't have any water in it, and therefore, if it touches matzah and you're careful about not having the roughs,
then you should be right. Right.
What about, let's say...
So sugar would be the other thing. So the norm is when they write no sugar, there's no sugar added. What do you do when your fermentation gets stuck? Fermentation is you're changing the natural sugar in the grape into alcohol. So, life happens. Sometimes it goes part way and it stops. So you have to kickstart it somehow. The most normal way in practice of doing that is to add sugar. So if you're a virulent no sugar on Pesach guy, what do they call them, never sugars, right? Then I don't know how you answer that question. I'll tell you what the norm is, but I wouldn't comfortably say it's 100%. The other thing with water, and if the sugar in the grape is very high at harvest, happens some years, that will give you a very high alcohol content, which is nice in one way, but the taxes jump when you cross certain thresholds. So the normal remedy for that, because you're not allowed to put water into wine in California, is they add what's called a clear alcohol reduction. It's water. So you dilute the tank enough that the alcohol level comes down back to 13, 14%, wherever the tax break is. Life happens when you're not looking. So the same line in grape juice, there's mevoshel and not mevoshel grape juice. Again, if you're having guests that are not Shomer Shabbos, then clearly you should not be having non-mevoshel grape juice at the table. And while the Mishnah Berurah talks about a hinder of having non-mevoshel grape, wine or grape juice for the Seder, the Alter Rebbe doesn't have that, seem to write that at all. He makes no comment about that, about being a hitter. So the presumption is that we don't view it as a hitter. So I would say, have company, stick with mevoshel. For those that were wanting the difference between Welch's grape juice and Kenner grape juice, they are both more than 51% single strength grape juice. For those that care about those percentages, and so they're both good. In terms of matzah, so there's a lot of shmura matzah on the market now, a lot of handmade shmura matzah on the market now. My only recommendation would be you should buy matzah with hashgachas that you know and that have a reputation for being on the ball when it comes to making matzah. The most difficult thing to make for Pesach is matzah. The biggest area where you have a problem is matzah. And it should be people that have lots of experience making matzah, certifying the matzah. Personal opinion. For the Zroya,
Just one point about the matzah. I didn't realize this before, but it's better to have wheat matzah than other matzahs from a kashrus perspective.
Definitely better to have a wheat matzah. We have a Masorah on wheat matzah. We don't have a Masorah really on oat and spelt.
What do you mean Masorah?
At what point does it become chametz? Is it 18 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? So between the two, spelt is preferable because it's at least in the family of wheat. If it's absolute less brera and you need to use oats, so okay, there's oat matzahs, but it should be for someone that has an actual medical necessity as opposed to gee, this would be nice. It's just lots of childhood and it's like okay, we made it, now what?
We have a difference in matzahs, whether it's 18 minutes from the table or from the kneading, right?
That's another big issue. Generally, as Americans, we look at 18 minutes from water hitting the flour, not from the table. But there's lots and lots of matzah that's 18 minutes from the table.
How do we know which Dashkacha holds by?
It says on the box.
Well, no, it'll just say 18-minute matzah or this or that on the box.
It doesn't say from where.
Nobody writes from where. So you have to.
What does it say? What does it say?
On the box, I don't believe so. They've gone to a very simplistic box.
Is Ukrainian matzah from the table or from the
I don't know. I don't know what Ukraine does. I don't know what Montreal does.
What does Kol Chabad do? Kol Chabad?
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, I saw it and then it didn't sink in. It didn't register. I don't know how it is. But if you're saying, one answer is buy what you bought last year. If it worked last year, it'll work this year. But if you're looking at other ones, then it's like you should know what you're getting into.
Mother Makodesh only last year.
Mother Makodesh, right?
Better than last year.
If it worked last year, it should at least be the same this year. So Zroya, our minute is used like a chicken neck, and we pull most of the meat off. You have to leave some meat on the neck. That should be considered a food, not something inedible. if your friends ask about using shank bones, which is a regular Ashkenazi thing to do, you want to remind them that it has to come from a kosher butcher shop. That you can't walk into, Stam Ralph's, on Crenshaw and say, hey, do you have? They do, but it has to be kosher, has to have some meat on it. Eggs, so you can now buy eggs with hashgacha, and there's absolutely no need for that.
No need for what?
There's no need to buy eggs with hashgacha, in-shell eggs.
You have to buy it before Pesach.
Even that. The issue is that you want the egg laid before Pesach.
Before Pesach.
So if
Buy the last day of Pesach.
the beginning of Chol Hamoed, you just go to the store and you buy the eggs that expire the soonest. Because it can take at least 2 days to get from. There aren't many egg ranges.
Give us a intro. What are you talking about?
There's concern that the eggs are laid in a chametzik environment. There's just, the chickens lay the eggs in the coops, and it's full of grain. So our eggs are washed, and our eggs are washed pretty well. But there's a concern of that. There's also a concern that maybe something got through the chicken and winds up in the egg. I'm not quite sure anatomically how that works, but okay. And so we don't buy eggs that were laid on Pesach.
Okay.
Same thing, we don't buy milk that was milked on Pesach.
Okay.
There's no Chol Yisrael milked on Pesach.
Okay.
Nobody makes it. In terms of eggs, so we try to buy it beforehand, but what do you do if you don't have enough room in the refrigerator for Seder and Yantav? So if you go at the beginning of Yantav, the beginning of Chol Hamoed rather, you buy the eggs that have the nearest in expiration date, so that those weren't the ones that were laid yesterday and the day before.
Okay, thank you.
Because maybe the chicken or the cow ate some chametz, right?
Or there's just chametz dovok on the shelf, even though it's washed, even though it's this and that.
Even if you find it, would that render the egg inside of the shell not allowed to Pesach?
It causes a problem. There's no bittul for chametz on Pesach, so you don't want to bring it in the house. You don't, holding it is an issue. Sticking it into a pot is going to be a problem.
Is there a need to have a separate pot for hard boiling eggs on Pesach?
Yeah, I'm supposed to have a separate pot for hard boiled eggs on Pesach.
Why is that?
Same as during the year. Because you're always afraid. One is as minhag. This is all minhag why we do it. We're afraid that if you have a blood spot in a number of eggs, you cook an odd amount that should always have ideally more that are not blood spots than are. But the blood spots that we have in eggs, in commercial eggs that you buy in a normal store today, that blood's not awesome.
Wait, so if I'm checking eggs for a cake and I see blood spot, it's not really a blood spot?
It's not a blood spot that's awesome. You have to throw out at least the yolk,
Right.
because we do that just to remember what we used to do. But the eggs that we're buying, the commercial eggs we're buying, are all from farms where there's no rooster.
So they're not fertilized.
So it's not a fertilized egg.
It's just
It's a protein spot. The chicken got
So
scared.
you can't throw it out for a second?
What?
Okay, sorry.
So you throw it out because of different things.
Right, you throw it out als minhag. It's a very strong
We need a
minhag.
separate pot
What?
also, minhag also, because
What?
we need a separate pot also for the same reason, not because they're really. not-
Right, because in America and Canada we only have commercial eggs. Doesn't mean that other places they don't get farm fresh where they're not cannibal and there are roosters around.
I thought there's a problem because of the coating on the egg or something that's chametz.
It's mineral oil. It's a mineral oil based thing.
And organic eggs also, are their blood spots any different?
They're organic blood spots. No, there's no difference. As long as you're buying commercially processed eggs.
So the brown eggs have a lot more blood spots than the white eggs.
Not so much.
So what are those spots in the eggs then, like the little brown?
It's a protein. What do they call them? Protein blemish. I forget what they call them now. Something like that. It's not fertilized. There's no rooster. So whatever it is, it's not what's also.
But is it also through the minhag?
Because the minute we throw it out, we don't differentiate. And not everywhere gets commercial eggs like we happen to buy here. You can still go to a ranch and, to a farm and buy it somewhere. And then you could have a problem with your blood spots or real blood spots. But
if it got mixed in with the egg, it's not really a problem. Right?
what?
Because it's only inside my science blood. Right?
The places that pack eggs, the chicken coops are right there. So they're running 1 million eggs a day or so through the packing house. It's not like milk where you go around farm to farm, pick it up and bring it in. It's all controlled. The lighting is controlled. What they eat is controlled. How many weeks the chickens work before they get a vacation is controlled. I mean, it's a low tech business. It's very high tech.
There's no problem with the writing on the eggshell, or it's only there's no reason.
It's not common.
That's not common.
Not common.
Oil is not.
Huh?
Yeah, right.
Okay. We're up to mortar.
You mentioned.
I'm just wondering if you're peeling your tomatoes because of coating or whatever, wouldn't you be concerned about the coating on the eggs also?
So you still have it in a separate pot.
So I'm asking, the need to a separate pot is, for Pesach perspective, is because of the coating on the egg, or it's not an issue at all?
No, separate pots because you're supposed to have it the other 51 weeks also.
Okay.
But on the tomatoes, if you prepare the food before Zman Isser, you don't have to peel.
I'm very confused. So you said the blood, we're not concerned about the blood at all now on the eggs, but we're still boiling in separate pots?
Because of minhag, we still use an egg pot.
Uh-huh.
And because it's not across the world where you have eggs this way, and there are certain things they want us to do just to remember, how things work.
Okay. We'll let you go a couple of minutes before we shoot more questions at you. You have a lot to cover. Go ahead.
Okay, so where are we at? Mortar. There's no requirement to buy mortar with hashgacha. You don't have to. And when you look at the hashgacha that's on most of the romaine, it says you should check it anyway. It makes you feel better, good. The worst time of year for infestation for romaine lettuce is April. That's when the bugs come out of hiding. They're starting to warm up and they come, so generically for that, organic winds up being a little bit worse. But you should, however you wash your lettuce, the other 51 weeks out of the year, is how you should wash it for the 52nd week out of the year. What they do now in most places, you separate the leaves. I mean, hearts of romaine is better than buying the whole head. From a practical standpoint, you separate the leaves. You would rinse each leaf, stick it aside. Oh, I didn't bring my show and tell stuff. Oh well. Put it in the bowl. Whatever you do with that water is the other 51 weeks. You should do the 52nd week. Swish it around. Take the lettuce out of the bowl. Set it aside. You then take a colander and stick it into a t-shirt. This is what people do. And so instead of taking a t-shirt and putting it over your head, stick the colander inside.
Calendar?
Colander.
Colander.
Strainer.
It's a large strainer. You then take this water that you swished around and cleaned your lettuce with, the final rinse water, pour that water through the t-shirt.
Through the
T-shirt.
t-shirt.
If there are no bugs in the t-shirt, you can say that entire batch of lettuce is bug-free.
That's great.
So if you don't want to hold up each piece and you have the water run down your arm, that's an alternative, an acceptable alternative.
You have to add some sort of soap into it?
Whatever you do the other 51 weeks, you should do the 52nd week. Because this whole bug checking business is an end result type of situation. So those that like soap, use soap. Those that like wash, use wash. Those that use salt, make sure it's not very strong because it shouldn't be a cooked vegetable. Whatever you do the other 51 weeks, you should do the 52nd week.
The light bulb checker.
If you want to, however,
Right, so if you put it through the t-shirt and there's no bug, there's no need to check the other one. If there are some bugs,
If there are bugs,
now
you
you've got to go
then you
back
can,
and check.
then you can go back and check, and you get to check it 3 times. You're allowed to check it,
Three
you're allowed to, you can go back and do that same rinse and t-shirt business again,
Got it,
but you only get 3 shots at it. If it fails 3 times, then that heads out.
okay.
The triple wash is not really any much better.
Triple what? It's the romaine triple wash is all cut up.
Is all?
Cut up.
Ah, okay. Right, that's right.
Right. So that wouldn't work. That's just a practical problem.
Right. But during the year, triple wash, cut up.
Right. So the triple wash, the only ones that seem to get hashgacha is the classic American salad, iceberg, carrot, cabbage, because they have the least infestation. So the ones that have, a reliable hashgacha up by the date code, when it's there, that batch passed the bug test. When it's not there, that batch did not pass the bug test. So you can still buy it, but then you have to check it. You can check the t-shirt method that we just talked about.
It has something on the, what do you say?
Certain brands have hashgacha. So if the hashgacha that company is using is considered a reliable hashgacha, then they all do the same thing. That when they check for infestation in that lot, it's not 100% check. They check that lot by sampling. If that's clean, then they put the hashgacha on, and if not, not.
Which is going
OV, OK, star K, OU. They all have, it's all the same program.
better to buy them as well.
You said before the only.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but if it normally has and it doesn't, then it should be a red flag that, okay,
More bugs there.
conceivably. But since it's not a 100% check, you could have a good bag, or you could have one with hashgacha and have a bad bag. It's,
Either way, you have to go through this washing thing. It's okay.
no, officially, you don't have to wash the Classic American. If you're buying Classic American for Pesach, then you want the ones with Pesach hashgacha, because they change out the citric acid from a kitnius to a non-kitnius, or kitnius or nishtama, depending what you're using.
You mentioned the
Process. So, process using apple, pears, and nuts. If you're going to buy shelled nuts, then you have to look at the package, see if it has preservative added, BHT, BHA. Those are kidney Israel carriers, and you wouldn't want to use that.
Most of the firm companies.
The firm companies would be marked for Pesach. Firm company, it's Lish also has kosher Pesach. They put out in shell and out of shell. OU says that Kirkland's signature walnuts and almonds are okay, just with a plain OU for Pesach. Other brands, I mean, I don't know what the OK says about Diamond. I didn't see that written up this year. The concern with other brands of just shelled nuts is that this line is doing shelled nuts. The packaging line next to it can be doing seasoned nuts or seasoned snacks with chametz, and that gets up in the air and floats around, and I don't know. It's not so geschmack. Karpas. So we use potato or onion. For those that use parsley, it should only be flat leaf, not curly leaf, because it's absolute misery to check and hard to do a good job. Fish. So if you're buying, how's it work? Pacific wild caught salmon, if frozen, can have a corn syrup glaze put on it to make it sparkle.
Is that labeled?
What?
Would that be labeled
Would it be labeled? No. No. So rinse it. You rinse the fish. The farm raised doesn't have it. Atlantic doesn't have it. So generically, if you're buying, rinse the fish before you play with it. It's always a good idea. But it's corn syrup, so it's just kidneys, right? So you just rinse it off. And not all the processors do it. So
Does Trader Joe's do it?
Trader Joe's buys stuff, so it's a matter of who their processor is. They make nothing themselves.
Well, the fish you buy in the kosher stores is not gonna have
Presumably not. I mean, they're
Pacific what?
Pacific as opposed to Atlantic salmon.
Okay.
The wild Pacific salmon, as opposed to the farm raised, can, not always, can have a glaze on the frozen fish.
Even in the kosher stores there?
The kosher store is presumably getting case of fish, as opposed to the individual package.
So they might get a
So
lot.
so the large fish wouldn't have it.
Huh?
Those wouldn't have it,
They wouldn't have it.
or shouldn't.
Someone asked me about getting kosher lox for Pesach. Is there such a thing?
Sure there is. They actually used to make it here, but they closed. Yeah, I don't know what the brands are. I mean, Lasco, I imagine, would have, and yeah, there should be a bunch. It's one thing you'd probably find in a Ralph's type store faster than you'd find in a Trader Joe's.
Can I ask you a word question? Can you explain the concept of Rabbi Moshe Levin? Because we tend to say
The concept of
Rabbi Moshe Levin
oh,
as someone who
I thought you said Ruggalox.
no,
Very
as
lucky
someone
this guy.
who owns a dog. There's lots of things she won't eat that halachically seem to be an issue, but that's not practice.
Okay, so-
Rabbi Moshe Levin.
So Roy Lakidis goes by what your average dog will do, not necessarily what your dog raised, Beverly Hills adjacent is going to do.
Right, but I'm saying, like, if you get a poor shampoo on the floor, she's not eating shampoo. It's
Right, she's not eating
her
shampoo.
specific issue. It's like when people say, the glue on your paper towel that attaches it, she's not gonna lick a paper towel, like, I wrestle with this concept, so if you can enlighten me.
Okay, so let me go through my list first, and we'll come.
Okay, cause
You gotta go?
But, okay, I'll watch the
Okay,
live video.
So the basic concept, the things like the paper towels going out there,
And makeup. Yeah.
if you take a look at there's a very nice letter from the Chicago Rabbinical Council that says lots of things are just straight out fine, and that works really well. It covers lots of makeup, categories of makeup and other cosmetics and whatever. As opposed to like the Star K list and whatnot, where you,
Okay, so we're gonna.
Depends if it's actual safety.
yeah, I mean, right. Read the CRC medicine letter, which Rabbi Reichert says is fine to go by. It makes your life a lot simpler. Where are you up to? Okay. Sugar. So any white granulated sugar is okay. However, this year, if it says product of Mexico, you probably don't want to buy it, because the Mexicans have found that certain points in the year, like when it's very humid, they'll add undeclared cornstarch to the sugar and salt. That's kind of surprising. That's new this year.
It probably won't have a stuff.
What?
It won't have a stuff.
It won't have hashgacha for Pesach.
Right.
When they went to do Pesach, that's when they found it this year. So they don't really know if it's new this year or if it's just a practice no one caught in the past, but they say not to buy it.
Do you have to worry about added sugar in Bartonella and Herzog products to the wines?
So they write which ones they add sugar to and which ones they use concentrate. It's published in a few places.
Not too many wines have no sugar or water added. Like M&M's.
Normal wine doesn't have sugar and water added per se.
That was only like Eminem Drive and like one other.
All right, listen,
Kesser?
let's keep on going. We'll do questions later.
Okay, so the other thing on sugar, no one's figured out the story with coconut sugar in terms of Pesach. So, coconut sugar. Got top here. For those that boil their sugar, so obviously you have to do it before Zman Isser, or actually before the time you burn your hummus, if you're going to do that. Brown sugar needs a Pesach Hashgacha, as does stevia extract. You can both find them now in the stores. But all these sugar substitutes have to have Hashgacha. Honey and agave need Pesach Hashgacha because they add stuff. Tea, unflavored regular tea bags are okay. Lipton decaf powdered is okay. Coffee, whole bean, ground, unflavored is acceptable for Pesach. This kind of hands down. Obviously not the one packaged in local coffee shop for serve food. Folgers and Taster's Choice regular is okay. Folgers decaf is okay. K-Cups, if you're only using coffee in your machine and you never put in hot chocolate, then they have a way that you could officially kasher for Pesach. The OU has a write-up on it. It's a little long to get into now. In general, if you go to like someone's office and they offer you a coffee, if they have hot chocolate in their selection, the machine's melted, and to kasher is close to impossible because there are prongs that go into the cup, and the milk and the hot chocolate's not bottled, so that prongs will go hot with hot water in your hot chocolate, then it goes into the coffee that you want to drink. Well, it's not a hummus issue. It's
You could kasher it to make it kasher Pesach?
they claim there are ways that you can do it because you're not
Kashing from Isser to...
you're not kashing from hummus. There's nothing hummus about the coffee, about regular coffee. You just in case whatever. You know.
So you're saying that for the company called Israel, it can...
I haven't seen that stuff in years.
She's
I mean, most
Around,
of the frozen has they have stuff added. The final one's just straight. I mean, industrial you can get, retail I haven't seen it. So parchment paper, people argue back and forth. OU says you do not need a Pesach certification on it, even though most have it anyway.
specifically Pesach.
Specifically Pesach. So there are two types of parchment paper. There's quillon and silicone. Silicone parchment paper, Bechlal does not need hashgacha. Quillon, since they can use animal fats to make it, should have hashgacha. But you have to try reasonably hard to find parchment paper that has no hashgacha on the box. So, I'm not sure how bad it is.
So the quillon will have that when you feed the...
Well, yeah. Even if it's just marked, not for Pesach, it's still Pesach there.
Oh, okay.
In terms of milk eggs, I have not seen a store where they haven't had, by mistake, the regular stuff and the Pesach stuff intermingled. So you always have to check Pesach certification on that. Cheeses, as you know, during the year all look alike and not all look Chol Yisrael. You really have to be diligent in checking the packages. For those that would drink Coke, so the Coke and Diet Coke have a yellow cap. It says Kosher Pesach, and you want to look. We try to get them to have the inkjet coat on the neck not appear on the perforation.
Not what?
Not that the code shouldn't be on the perforation on the neck where you take the cap off. They tried. They tried very hard. It didn't always work. So if you're buying it and you're going to be using it Shabbos or Yom Tov, you should get the ones where you don't have the letters going across.
But if it's yellow, it's for sure kosher Pesach?
No, they use yellow caps for other products. It's a yellow cap and it says Kosher Pesach.
Has to say.
Has to say Kosher Pesach. Cocoa, Hershey's regular is okay. The special dark, they say the doctor is not okay. I wrote to the mashgiach, he didn't answer me as to what the problem is. The official answer is, well, nobody looked at it. That answer works for 1 year. It doesn't work for 2 years. And it's the same place, so if he ever tells me, I'll let you know. Extra virgin olive oil, this is something, I'm saying nothing different than last year or the year before, just people find it very confusing. OU says that you can buy extra virgin olive oil that has a decent year-round hashgacha, meaning an OU or a star K, an OK, a Chof K if they have any, I don't know, and you can use that for Pesach. But extra virgin is not extra light, it's not extra whatever. It has to be the exact words extra virgin olive oil. Cold press doesn't matter if it's on the label or not, because by definition extra virgin olive oil is cold pressed. So then they ask about adulteration in olive oil. It's adulterated olive oil. It's a very big topic, but it's a very broad stroke. So the first off, the reason they say to buy with a good hashgacha means that the olive oil packing plant has someone going around, and they're either not doing any animal oils at all in that plant, or they have it under tight control. So what can you mess with the olive oil then? A couple of things. If the guy's going to cheat, they can put other kitnius oils into it, and so you're selling a cheaper oil for more expensive, but kitnius is batal b'roy before Pesach. So that works out. There's certainly some oils, California oils that we know, you do it, it's just their oil, just from their ranch, just no enzymes. Horribly expensive, but you know what it is. Also, in terms of adulteration, if they tell you that it's, Spanish olive oil and they blend in Italian, or it's Italian, they blend in Spanish, it's also considered adulterated oil. So that when you get this broad spectrum of, oh my God, well, olive oil is terrible, those are also included in the category. So it's not a lot of things that would affect the kashrus. And from what I've seen, people want to know, can you go to Costco and buy that olive oil? I think you can, and I think you can do it without any worry. Because Costco has their own auditors that they send out to people that label stuff for them. And if they had the slightest inkling that someone was adulterating the oil, either by country of origin or by type of oil that's in there, they would drop them like a hot potato. So.
Adulterated, that doesn't appear on the bottle.
Do they write adult? No, the goal is to cheat.
What are the kitnius oils? And what's not?
And it was an absolute failure, because most of the things you make out of cottonseed wind up being poisonous to humans. So, as far as we're concerned, it's no issue. No issue with being a kitnius oil or whatever.
Is the seed oil kitnius?
Yes.
Yeah, cottonseed and grapeseed.
Yeah, cottonseed, it has to be a terrible oil for you health-wise, but yeah.
Grapeseed is better.
Grapeseed is whatever better.
Avocado oil.
Sorry?
Avocado oil. Kosher pizza?
Avocado oil.
Avocado? It could be.
Especially.
I don't know if anybody made it kosher Pesach, but it certainly could be.
They have an avocado extra virgin olive mix that I think the store cake is on. Maybe it's
Okay.
Ralph's or.
But it needs to have a special pizza mixture, or
There's what?
oils need to have it. You said olive
Right.
oil.
Extra virgin olive oil doesn't need to be marked specifically for Pesach. It has to be marked kosher.
But that's that one.
An OU, an OK, a star K. Any other oil needs to be marked specifically for Pesach. Yes. Water, so plain water doesn't need hashgacha. That being said, Ralph's has what's, I think they call it mountain dairy water. They make it many places, including downtown. So So when I was in their dairy downtown, I asked them, why do you have a KD on your label for your water? I said, what do you mean? That's a kosher symbol. What do you mean it's a kosher symbol? We put it on the yogurt, we put it on the cottage cheese, we put it on the milk, everything's KD, and we put it on the water. Okay. How do you make your water? I said, well, filters, are very expensive. Yeah. We run it through the milk pasteurizer. So KD is really not, it's not a bad symbol on the water, right? So, years ago, we asked Rabbi Schusterman about it. And, and he didn't think it was really a problem. He said, if you're kosher, you're not kosher with water anyway, so why is this worse? We asked him, can you make a fleshig cholent with a KD water? He said yes. Rabbi Reichik's not comfortable with the general concept. And we haven't spoken to Rabbi Schusterman about this in a number of years. So, you'll do what you do. Arrowhead. So the spring water, perfectly fine. The flavored water is obviously not.
Arrowhead bottles from Costco.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you buy it.
These things we have to buy before Pesach? If it doesn't have a Pesach hashkalah?
So if you're very, very machmer, very, very right-wing, if there's minerals listed on the label, then some people want to complain about the minerals aren't made under Pesach conditions, but it doesn't mean it's not Pesach conditions. Just, So some want to argue about that. I don't see it. I just don't see the argument. Your normal minerals are added singly, meaning that you have I forget what they are now, but you got 3 bags there, they blend it and stick it in. And you put it in parts per million. Some do pre-mix their minerals and may or may not dry that together, I don't know. Maybe you could raise an eyebrow at it, but it's not chametz for sure, and it was made before Pesach, no matter when you buy it during Pesach. And if it had kidneys, it would be bottled. The minerals themselves are bottled by Aleph in the water. So if you had a chashash of kidneys, it's really far-fetched. Some of the lists talk about not buying unflavored mineral waters because they're worried about the carbonation. From what I've seen for Trader Joe's or whatever, the ones that we have in California the gas is not an issue. Straight up not an issue. I don't know about the rest of the country, but here it's just not a problem. What's their concern? The current concern is that you can capture gas off of beer fermentation and resell that compressed gas. Okay. People said they've seen a truck come pick it up.
Seltzer? Is that one?
It winds up being a cheaper gas. But all the places that we've been to, we see that it's regulars, straight out,
That would have to be gluten, if they were taking off.
No, there's no gluten in it.
I'm saying if you're taking off the beer.
No, it's not a
But you have to
gluten.
write that it has gluten.
No, there's no gluten in it.
The soda stream CO2 does not have this issue?
It also doesn't have any.
Soda stream, I think the rate is okay. I believe that's right. Lemon juice, there's a brand called Real Lemon, so Real Lemon, Real Lime, you can buy with just an OU and use it for Pesach. For those that decided you can use quinoa on Pesach, you absolutely positively must buy it from the Pesach batches. You can't be Malamed Schus at all, because some of those that aren't could be actual chametz. I spoke to someone who went out to wherever, Peru and he said that they had a problem. They have problems with the birds eating the quinoa. So, to discourage them from eating the quinoa, a number of the farmers will spread oats on top of the quinoa when it's growing, and then it rains.
Wow.
So the ones that are marked for Pesach are from areas where they don't do that, and in the packaging houses where they do all sorts of chametz liquid grains, they've cleaned up and separated. So there is just absolutely no leeway whatsoever between Malamed Schus on this box or that box, If it's not marked by whatever that agency says you have to look for Pesach, you straight out can't use it.
It's like mushrooms, right? Mushrooms are also problematic.
What, do we ever worry about water filters having any chametz residues from the charcoal?
You're supposed to, well, if you're using a filter, you ideally want to change the filter from Pesach.
I'm saying some charcoal is made from chametz derivatives.
That's charcoal that you're burning, and even that's not an issue because if you're using charcoal to roast something, grill something, it's burning. So the short answer is no. It's not really
But you
an
could
issue.
use chametz to burn the smoke of the chametz, the heat of the chametz.
So they say. I mean, they looked, they saw, and they said, well, that's for briquettes. Some briquettes had that, and
Is that the shit that
stock house
Leich
say
alav
you're
milsi?
burning it, right? So
Leich alav milsi? Is that the smell?
it's not.
It's
Don't
something,
smell it.
something we could be machmir.
So you said if you drink filtered water in your house,
You should change the filter.
you should change the filters before Pesach?
I mean, if it's $1 million change out, if you have one of these under sink massive,
Yeah.
the guy's got to come.
No, you can do it yourself. You just do 3 tubes there.
Yeah. But ideally, when you're cleaning out, so you would change the filter because who knows what it trapped.
Who knows what?
You don't know what it trapped. Now, is it shaykh in the municipality to have comments in your water supply? Not really. They'll tell you, but it's area. The intake is where people were throwing bread to feed the fish and this.
No, no bread to eat.
Okay, story happened, but
They can have an on pizza. United States is extra concern.
Yeah.
Have an on pizza.
Yeah.
right.
And
Right.
what do they call that? Pellegrino?
Pellegrino's not kosher Pesach.
I know. If you're careful not to use the processed foods on Pesach, is that one process? It's carbonated? I'm just saying.
So the carbonated is a step more processed than flat water.
Right. So, but is there any real issue there though? As far, I mean, it's only carbonation. It's not.
Right. So again, the whole quantum carbonation is what's the source of the gas,
Right.
of the carbon dioxide. So most of it is just
Yeah.
explosion of gas,
Right.
catalyst and gas.
So the OU, the actual OU.
If the OU in their case giving it kosher, then they looked at it.
No, it's not from the beer. I think.
It's not from the beer.
So if it was from the beer, would they like sometimes they write gluten free on these products? Would they not be able to write gluten free if it was from the beer? That's what
You're not going to get gluten in the gas.
you guys
So that's not going to be an issue. Last time I listed frozen fruit, you could buy unsweetened, cut up frozen fruit packaged if you're so inclined. In general, just fresh peeled or cut vegetables and lettuce, they put stuff in the water to keep it fresh. Included in that is either citric acid or they put citric acid in to combat the chlorine that's going to chew up the metal kaolin. So in America, citric acid is either kitnius or not. In Europe, it's chametz or not. I personally have never seen the chametz dig citric acid here. So that's how that goes. What else do we have here?
So for us,
Huh?
like for us, that we don't eat kitnius.
We don't eat
it. Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, but if you got it before Pesach, then it's still bottled. I mean, you're talking parts per million on this stuff
Oh, okay.
in the water. It's not not anything in taste wise. Just to gloss over this.
Then what the chametz wouldn't that be bottled too in Europe?
If it was bottled, yeah, but if you put something in like achila, then it's a little harder to say. You're not there. I just want to gloss over this medicine cosmetic letter. It's available online at the askcrc.org. And it's basically all pill medication, quoting, with or without chametz that you swallow is permitted. Candy-coated pills are an exception, but they're uncommon. Vitamins and food supplements do not necessarily fall in the category. You should talk to your Rav. Liquid and chewable medications that contain chametz should only be used at the direction of your doctor and rabbi who will judge the severity of the illness. And do not discontinue use of any liquid chewable medication without talking to your doctor and your rabbi first. Liquid and chewables that have just kidneys could be consumed by someone who is ill. Otherwise, if you're a healthy person that just kind of wants to, you have to talk to your Rav. For the ladies, and I never remember this list, it's all varieties of blush, body soap, conditioners, creams, eyeshadow, eyeliner, foundation, ink, lotion, mascara, nail polish, ointment, paint, shampoo, and stick deodorant can be used on Pesach no matter what's in it.
No matter what's in
No matter what's in it.
It could be used.
Could, yes, allowed. Would there? Many varieties of cologne, liquid deodorant, hairspray, mousse, perfume, shaving lotion, and wipes have denatured alcohol and should only be used if they contain chametz-free alcohol or denatured. Lipstick, mouthwash, and toothpaste should come from sources that you know are not chametz. So when you write in a lot of these lists that's like toothpaste may be used on Pesach, doesn't mean that it's kosher. It means it's no chametz. Could be animal fat. So like
But you're not.
Crest.
That's year round.
Colgate toothpaste very often has animal fat. Procter and Gamble made a promise to the OU that they would not use animal glycerin.
That has OU symbol?
No, at the time they decided not to certify it, but part of the deal was they promised even if when the price fluctuates and animal glycerin is cheaper, they would stick to vegetable. So Crest is a P&G product. So those are okay.
Crest versus Colgate.
No, Colgate's all. I mean, it's
Crest is better.
in terms of not having animal fat, but the neither one contains chametz.
Both Crest
And Colgate are chametz free.
Just don't swallow it because it might have an after.
The theories don't swallow right. Just one may have animal fat, one will not have animal fat.
I think only Tom's has the OU, right?
Right. Tom is a O.
Tom says an OU, right?
I heard it's supposed to be
You're allowed to use it on Pesach. It's not chametz.
Even all the flavors. Strawberry.
Doesn't say OU.
Does not say OU because it's yeah. And again, why they didn't ask for OU kidneys, I don't know, but
You mentioned in the beginning Welch's grape juice, but
Welch's does an OU wrong, they do a triangle cake for the everything else. So the OU Welch's grape juice is more than 51%. Like Kedem is more than 51% single strength. That's for those that care about single strength and not having concentrate and this and that. It's not a big concern in our circles. That's it. Ta-da.
Tylenol?
Should be healthy.
No?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things that you always want to buy before Pesach, and just to have it, like a segula, you don't need it.
What do you buy before Pesach?
Tylenol, Advil,
What do you mean, buy before Pesach?
Yeah. Like why can't you buy it?
Even on Pesach, some way.
You're still allowed to buy it, but it's a lot of people feel that since that it more than likely has cornstarch or whatever, that you should have it beforehand. It's in your possession, but either way, it's obviously if it's in the store, it's made for Pesach.
Right.
So
Do we have any that have ashkafa or that we know from the ashkafa that it doesn't have
maybe
cornstarch?
Headway. might have one.
Edward?
Adway may have a.
Oh, Edward.
Yeah.
88.
They may have a Tylenol type thing. Special Pesach.
But all those like all those like Tylenol, Advil, Excedrin, all those kind of permissible for Pesach.
What?
Assuming you bought it ahead of time and it's made before, it's permissible.
Yeah, so the pills are okay. The liquid gels we generally try to avoid.
Yeah.
We said the pill, even if it has chametz in it, it's okay?
A prescription pill.
Prescription pill.
Prescription pill.
Like Advil, really?
That's not prescription.
Even
What?
with chametz,
Like
it's okay?
antibiotics.
Huh?
Antibiotics.
Even with chametz, it's okay?
With hummus, yes.
In all situations?
That's what I'm saying. That's
A prescription.
Before Pesach, no?
Right.
If you have a prescription that you're taking that's a pill, even if it has chametz in it, you're allowed to use it.
Even on Pesach? I'm saying.
We're talking about
You
Pesach.
made it on Pesach?
Yeah.
No, let's say it's not on Pesach.
No, not for small little stuff.
Who gets prescription? You don't get prescription medications for.
Yeah, you get for your
Somebody
foot.
comes by and somebody needs something and they go to the
For a
doctor.
foot rash, I'll give you a
prescribe
prescription sometimes.
something,
You don't. Most foot
We're talking
medications
about a
are
real
pills.
prescription of someone who really needs this medicine. The doctor
What if
says,
not?
you better take this medicine.
What in the case of not?
Then
You
look.
need, I don't know,
Then look into it.
amoxicillin pills, or I don't know what they are.
Amoxicillin. If someone puts you on it, then you take it. And you take it the whole regimen.
Because the doctor has two prescriptions. He has a prescription is you have to take this, and he has a prescription you could take this.
Right.
So
Amoxicillin is not something that you could take. It's because and when you feel fine, you still take it till the jar's empty.
So milk and eggs we buy before Pesach?
But
There's
yeah,
no
I mean the
process,
milk.
okay.
It's you may not find it. You may not find it during Pesach, but there's no cholesterol milk that is made during Pesach.
It's like buying fish on Pesach, like no chassidus, the fish ate something, eat some chametz in the water and whatever.
You don't get the guts
Oh,
of
what?
the fish.
I don't know.
The fish are they're skinned and degutted. So
The white animal.
I mean we're doing the tuna production once, and yeah,
Tuna production.
tuna fish, and basically what you change is the label on the outside. So there was it was time for one of the summer guys to be hanging out at butchering, and they would bring in giant albacore, slice it open, and just 300 snails just fell out of its stomach. He had a good meal before he got caught. Yeah, it happens, They're allowed to eat treif.
Huh?
The fish is allowed to eat treif.
The fishes.
You can even use treif to go fishing. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
it's an old thing.
Right.
Right. If you have a fish tank, what do you feed your fish in Pesach? Shrimp, frozen shrimp.
If you go to the zoo-
Because you're not eating the.
Yeah, went to the zoo. Why not?
if you go to the zoo, you're not allowed to buy the
Good. So you don't buy the chazarai. So what?
Could you feed them other things? That's
What? A lot of stuff from home they shouldn't be eating. You'll mess up the animals.
So you shouldn't buy the animal feed.
no, it's
So what?
could be a big problem.
No. Some of the animals, like for the birds, it's chametz.
Chametz.
Yeah, you give it chametz.
Underwood Farms.
Yeah, you better be careful. Tell everyone who goes there. What's with the milk bottles that they give? My wife told me she once had a situation. So when we gave the milk bottle and found out it was the wrong thing to do. Is it chametz? They give an opportunity to give the goats milk bottle.
What's wrong with giving goat milk in a milk
I
bottle?
don't know. They were told she should.
Don't worry about giving what cholestam to the goat.
No, milk that was milk on Pesach.
She's not drinking it.
Okay. So the purchase is not a problem.
I-
Those that have
Might be
the
owning chametz, yeah. You can buy it.
those that have the hatred not to buy everything before Pesach.
No, maybe
Fruits and
it's
vegetables. Many of
So
us. have.
there's a minute
Buy it if you want.
It's a
to
hidden
cook
order.
everything before
Yes, we do
Pesach.
that too.
Never happened in my house.
My wife would be concentrating in the kitchen now.
Huh?
He wants it, but you have to own it.
It's not even
But yeah, with the last Shabbos.
It's so weird.
Um, But does that have this hitter?
This is your club.
Not to buy everything before Pesach.
Okay.
This is a hitter.
It's a hitter.
There's no problem going and buying things before on Pesach.
You're allowed to go buy what you need during Pesach. You're allowed to go buy what you need to buy during Pesach.
If the Yid owned it, you could buy it before Pesach.
You're not buying comments. Hopefully, right? You're going to the store during Pesach to buy something. You're not buying something that comes there.
And the pale, I don't know, like say this kimwa that has the oats on it.
Yes. If you're buying quinoa, then you're only buying the kosher Pesach one anyway.
Of course.
And mushrooms you should buy under the hechsher. Because they grow them.
You can fully grow around wheat.
They grow them on wheat. That's why.
My son won $25 savings bond from Cheder for a project with that.
Yeah? You made a project about it?
It was a science project.
Yeah.
So I was at a mushroom company, and they said whatever he was doing wasn't working at all, and they sell like these boxes. You just punch some holes in it, throw some water, and you can grow mushrooms. And he did, and he won the prize.
So he grew mushrooms.
Yeah.
But those were not on the wheat. Those are good for Pesach.
This was nothing to do with Pesach, but
I'm just saying.
oh no, that could have comments inside.
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So mushrooms will do the action. Yeah.
Couldn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Pepper. Ground pepper. Black pepper.
So black pepper is kind of funny. I just found out that a lot of places wash the black peppercorns in alcohol as an infestation control. Didn't know that.
Must have ashkacha Pesach.
In general, spices, you're buying spices that they should be marked for Pesach because the packing environments can be anything. You know, the way, like, especially if it's a seasoning blend, even though everything looks fine, the previous blend could have had comments. And the cleanouts there are pretty mediocre because they say if you clean up well enough that the residue will not affect the color, taste, or performance of the next product. That means you didn't clean the whole thing out. Yeah, so that spices you definitely want, if you're buying, you definitely want to have Pesach different marked. Salt, non-iodized salt is what we buy.
What is iodine?
Well, iodine is something that they said it's I forget what it prevents. But the issue with the iodine, getting iodine out of the salt usually requires a kitnius carrier, like a corn oil or something like that, to make it stick. So we buy. The Chabad minhag is to use coarse salt for Pesach, not the superfine kind, not normal table salt.
Kashmir salt.
Yeah, kosher salt.
Kosher salt. That's a Chabad minhag. We don't just take what has a hashkacha.
What?
We don't just take what has a hashkacha. We take coarse.
So I'm told.
Huh?
So
Yeah.
I am told.
So I mean, not to have garlic.
We have a minhag not to eat garlic. Yeah, correct.
Not to eat ginger. Is that correct?
Ginger also, I think there are rights in the Haggadah.
Huh? What did you say? Ginger?
Ginger, yeah.
Not to have potato alcohol.
We do no hard alcohol.
What about like brandy?
No hard alcohol.
Only port wine.
And no
Yeah.
radishes.
And what?
No radishes.
What do you mean?
No, it's they said no radishes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant
Kishuin, what do you call it? Pumpkins and
What's wrong?
squash.
Cucumbers.
Squash. Cucumbers I know we eat in the house. Is there a problem with pumpkins and squash and these kind of things? We peel them, but it has
With
those.
pumpkin seeds?
Yeah, it has the seeds, yeah.
seed itself doesn't mean a problem.
What's wrong with the seed?
No, is there any kind of minhag? Is it a real minhag? I know some people don't have it.
No,
Is it a
I mean,
real
I
minhag?
remember
Or it's like avocado.
got a call once from a lady freaking out. It was Erev Pesach. I mean, the day Erev Pesach. My son came home from yeshiva and he traipsed up my kitchen. How was that possible? I mean, really? How do you? He made orange juice. And oranges have seeds. It's straight on Pesach. No, that's not how it works. It's not all seeds are bad.
When I heard of Yaakov Landau, he said this from Rabbi Shama. Our meaning is not to aser shum garlic on Pesach. Not aser.
Not the answer, but
And
it's,
maybe so. I mean, it's not.
it's something like this.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I wasn't feeling well.
Suppose they asked the Rebbe about using garlic and other stuff because like we know you don't grow it and dry it that way anymore, and the Rebbe's answer was don't mess with Chabad and Hanukkah.
When that was asked about garlic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked the Rav one time, I wasn't feeling well. He said, don't worry, you'll have to take a dry wine, you'll have the chicken soup and matzah, you'll feel just fine after the Seder. I said, okay, I'll be about to the garden.
You have enough dry wine, enough good dry wine.
So salt, even when they go to Hashir, how many is you only use the kosher salt?
What if there's
Wow.
no street or kelp or anything like that? There's no kelp or dolls?
There's no what?
Kelp or dolls that's kosher Pesach?
What?
Kelp?
Kelp or dolls. Instead of I'm saying instead of like salt.
I don't know what you're saying.
Like dolls.
Dulse.
Dolls.
Oh,
Like from like the oceans, just like,
you're allowed to use sea salt.
Our meaning is to check the salt also.
Normally, when you flip this through the salt, all you're finding is the cardboard packaging,
You what?
the cardboard that came off inside the box.
There's a minute to check the salt.
Yeah.
I asked Rabbi Moshe gave a women's class last week. I asked him, why don't you check the salt or boil the salt?
Well, sugar if you're going to use sugar.
There's a minute to boil sugar.
But for that, he says
Hey,
you take the
some
sugar that doesn't have
sugar
hashgacha.
Many don't use sugar at all, right?
Rabbi Moshe says for that you take even the sugar that does not have hashgacha. He says no need to take the hashgacha.
Correct. Shoshana Plotkin said when she was single, I think worked for a company that pays to make a sugar with Hamish Hashgacha. They bought regular sugar and poured it out into a container. Then they took that and packaged it with Hamish Hashgacha. So yeah, what do you think they make their own sugar?
That's a need to continue.
No, but Shalach Moedim writes that we check our salt, right? The meaning is to check the salt. Check it out here.
I didn't do it.
A whole year, sure.
No, please don't tell me. Shalach
Good.
Moedim is
Okay.
Stam Yonah.
About the flour.
Huh?
Check the flour, right?
Do they check it at the bakery? They sift it.
It's sifted.
We have to check flour year round.
Not in America. It's a weather and infestation problem. We're cold enough. It doesn't.
It's
It's not a normal problem. Will you never find a bag that's infested? No, of course you'll find bags that get infested, but it's not a normal thing.
If you leave the flour open, like you don't seal the flour, and it's like large bag of flour, and you use it over time, there are bugs.
Okay, so stick it in a plastic container. You won't get bugs.
Same thing with barley. That's not the flour. I opened the package of barley. It was a little old. Flat.
Listen, I bought a package of a canister of raisins. Opened up, slammed the lid back on, and it was full of bugs. Right? So I put it in a Ziploc bag. I went back to the store to return it. And the store manager was screaming, "Why did you bring that in here?" I said, "Well, I figured you wouldn't believe me. Get it out! Get it out!" They had at Yeshua, they got a garlic, like a 5-pounder of garlic. And it was infested. So the office called, "What do we do?" Said, "Tell the distributor to replace it." "Why do you want to replace it? We don't like the first one." What do you want from me? Yeah. Such a bad one, get another one. That's it? Wanna go off camera? Can I also on this thing? Neither do I. But, finish.